everyone, and welcome to this IGD E mentoring induction webinar. Today we're going to be learning all about the e-mentoring and how you can really make the most of this unique and special program. So before we start the webinar content, I'd just like to introduce myself. So my name is Vicky Coleman and I work in the charity side of IGD. I look after all of our supply chain cross-company collaboration programs, hence why I'm running the webinar today. And I'm also joined by my colleague Robin, who I am going to hand over to briefly, just so he can introduce himself and also talk you through how the webinar controls work before we get into the content of the webinar. So over to you, Robin.
Hi everyone, as Vicky said, my name is Robin and I am the Charity Programme Project Coordinator. So I'll be the coordinator for the e-mentoring programme. You might recognise my name as I've been sending out all the comms so far for this programme, and I'll continue to do so throughout the programme. Now, if you have any questions whatsoever, however simple you may think it is, feel free to drop me a line and I'll respond in due course. Now, before I hand back to Vicky to run this session, I just want to run through the software if you are unfamiliar. So firstly, you will see on the right-hand side of your panel, there is an orange box with a white arrow in it. So if you just press on that, that will open and close your panel as shown here. Now you are all in listen-only mode on the audio, but if you're in a noisy room or if your sound quality is not very good, you may want to switch over to the phone. So if you just click on the phone tab, the instructions will appear, and that's just underneath computer audio on your audio section. At the end of the session, we have a Q&A session where if you've got any questions, we will try our best to answer them throughout this session. So at the bottom on the questions pane, you can ask your questions throughout the session, or if you've got any comments, and we'll address them later on. And finally, we may ask you to raise your hand in response to a comment, and that's just shown at the bottom there. So I can actually now get you all to press the hands up button, just so I can see that that's actually working. There we go. They are coming through nicely, so we can see that everybody's found that. Thank you. I'm now going to hand back to Vicky, who will continue with this induction.
Thank you, Robin. That was really useful. So I think before we kick off today, I think it's just useful to let you know what we're going to be covering. Now, the content of this induction webinar will last for around about 30 minutes, and then we're going to open up for Q&A at the end. So some of the things that we're going to be covering, a brief introduction to IGD, giving you that all-important overview of the programme, looking at the different roles and responsibilities in terms of mentors and mentees, how we go about matching your mentoring partnerships, that all-important first meeting with your partner, an overview of the programme timeline, and then really looking at what's going to be happening next in terms of next steps and the further support that is available to you. So that's what we're going to be covering. And as I said, I think it's really important for everybody on the call to firstly understand IGD and really how this e-mentoring programme fits within our charitable offer. So IGD is a research and training charity, and we sit at the heart of the food and consumer goods industry. And really what we are trying to do here is be the lifelong learning partner for you, and really make sure that we equip everybody within our industry with the right skills and knowledge to face current challenges and those of the future. Now, in terms of the charity area of IGD, our sole aim is to deliver public benefit. And the way that we do this is by enabling companies across our industry, like yourselves, to work together in a collaborative space and a non-competitive space. So where we can create collective impact and collective change as an industry. And so those 4 key areas that we focus on in the charity side of IGD are around people and people development, health and wellness, sustainability, and economic analysis. And as you can imagine, the supply chain cross-company collaboration programs really fit into that people development pillar. So moving on to the program itself and what makes it special. So with our e-mentoring program, it's inside your industry. So it's really important that you're able to speak the same language as your mentor or mentee. And really, you know, especially given the current environment we're in, we're facing extremely similar challenges. So it makes it a really unique opportunity to be talking that same language and be experiencing the same things. But also it's outside of your organisation. So it's a great opportunity to have an open and honest conversation, you know, with someone that is not involved in your day-to-day role and who's not kind of heavily involved in kind of your culture and the way that your organisation runs. So really good to get that open and honest outside perspective, but with someone working within the industry and within the supply chain function. And you know, you're not alone. We have a great alumni for this program. Over 1,000 people have gone through our mentoring program from over 60 companies. So really good alumni within the industry and the supply chain function. So a bit more about how our e-mentoring program works. And really what we are doing with this program is providing a free and unique development opportunity for that rising talent within our supply chain. And we do this through the cross-company mentoring opportunity. And we've got some really great supply chain leaders on this program, and they're going to be paired with high potential individuals within the supply chain. And really it's about you know, non-competing companies and individuals working together to support with their knowledge and experience the development of the mentee. And it's about personal and professional growth. So whether you've got some specific career ambitions and goals or some more personal development, softer skills goals, you can really use this program to work that through in your partnership. All connections, catch-ups and conversations in your partnerships will be virtual. I'm sure we're all familiar with virtual ways of working given the current environment, and really it's you know, it's finding a platform that works best for you both, and I'll talk more about that in terms of ways of working a bit further in the webinar. And the program runs for a period of 8 months. So everybody listening in on today's call is part of our June intake. So we will be running for 8 months and finishing an e-mentoring program at the end of February 2021. So I just want to clarify what the program is and what it isn't. It is an opportunity to gain that total chain perspective from different parts of the customer and the supplier world, and a really great development opportunity for both mentors and mentees. And you know, it should be obvious in terms of the next points I'm going to make, but I do want to make it extremely clear. Our e-mentoring program is not a way to find out what your competitors are doing. Again, we pair with non-competing businesses. It's not an opportunity to develop trading relationships or poach candidates from other businesses. This program is all in the spirit of collaboration and working together to develop the rising talent within the supply chain of our industry. So just making it very clear in terms of the ground rules of what it is and what it is not. So I'd like to move on now to looking at the roles and responsibilities. And firstly, we're going to look at the mentor role. So a mentor is an experienced and trusted advisor who has gained a wealth of knowledge and experience over their career, and somebody who is going to offer their guidance to somebody who is either less experienced or in a slightly more junior role, and give a really great outside view and perspective within those conversations. And the key responsibility for a mentor really is about helping their mentee grow. So although the mentee should be using their own initiative in terms of their development, the mentor is there to encourage and to get the best out of their mentee, you know, really drawing out those skills they didn't know they had, and really building on their own personal development goals. So in terms of some of the things that the mentor will be doing during this partnership, they're going to be listening to their mentee, providing that all needed encouragement, and really offering advice from a different perspective on the mentee's current problem, challenge, or opportunity that they have in front of them. And really it's about sharing information, ideas and advice to help that mentee achieve their career or personal development goals. And although the mentoring programme does focus on the mentee's development, there are plenty of development opportunities for all of the mentors who have put themselves forward to be part of this programme. And I think one of the key benefits and things that mentors keep coming back to this programme and kind of re-participating year on year to mentor with a new mentee is about nurturing talent and growing capabilities of their partner. You know, it's fantastic to, you know, impact the positive mindset of the person you're paired with and really bring out the best in your mentee. So that's a really great skill that you can be developing over the course of this programme. Again, for the mentor, it's about practicing some of those challenging and coaching conversations. So again, lots of opportunities when you're catching up in your pairs to develop that skill set and those conversations. You'll gain a lot of insight from your mentee, and again, the information that you're sharing again is confidential, but will kind of be feeding in to your insights that you're gaining, and again informing your benchmark of what great really does look like in terms of talent in our industry. And again, sharing that knowledge differently and using the feedback that you're giving to your mentee to get your mentee to shift their behaviour. And again, I think the box on the left kind of sums it up really nicely, and about you know, taking this opportunity to positively impact your mentee, get them to overcome challenges and skills development areas and bring out the best in them. So, you know, just a thank you to everybody who is dialed in and has taken on the role of a mentor for this June intake. So moving on to the role of the mentee. So again, this is somebody actively looking to grow their personal and professional development. They're going to be willing to learn from their mentor, from all of their knowledge, advice and experience, and act on that feedback to make the most of those potential career and skills development opportunities. And for the mentee, it's really about taking responsibility for your development. Your mentor is there to guide and support you, but it's really in your hands to make these things happen. So driving the actions from your conversations. And in terms of being a mentee, you really should be preparing for each of your meetings in advance, thinking about some of your short-term and longer-term career ambitions and goals that you want to achieve. Again, if you're not quite clear on those, you can use your sessions to kind of figure out a bit more clarity on what they could be if you're struggling at that stage. As I said, up to you to drive those actions and to put what you've agreed to into practice. And we really see the mentee, because it's about your development journey. We'd really like you to initiate contact with your mentor. So once we've sent you your details of who you're paired with, it's really about making that first introduction and also scheduling all of those meetings and kind of, as I say, taking responsibility for this journey and your development. So in terms of the benefits for the mentee, again, there's lots of things that you're going to gain from this great programme. And really it's about boosting your skills, your confidence and your knowledge and insight about the supply chain. doing that through gaining an external perspective and somebody who's not as involved in your day-to-day. It can help recognise and work on some of your strength areas and also those areas that you feel that you need to develop. And again, as I said, if you're not quite clear what those areas are at the moment, your mentor can help you sort of clarify and identify what those areas are. Gaining that wider perspective of the supply chain, having that confident space to reflect and grow, and a confidential and confident space to have those conversations and practice those all-important interpersonal skills. And as before, on the left, I think the quote sums it up really nicely from one of our previous mentees' feedback. So moving on to matching and how we pair our mentors and mentees. So based on the information that everybody has kindly submitted through the registration form process, we use a few different criteria points to match our mentors and mentees. The first and most important point is around non-competitor businesses, so whether that's in your current or a recent role. And then we look to match people based on the skills provided from our mentors with the development needs identified by the mentees. And then finally looking at the experience that people have in their roles. Now, during this process, we make every effort to ensure that you are not partnered with a competitor. But if you do have any concerns that you are, then do just get in touch with us and we can look at that with you. And again, on another point, we've had great success with our matchings over the years. But if, for example, we don't have the full picture and you have been paired with someone that perhaps you have worked with in the past, come back to us and let us know, because we would prefer that you start with a clean slate and have a fresh relationship with someone that you haven't met or worked with previously. So a little bit more about the programme support and what you can expect from us here at IGD. We are here during the length of this 8-month programme to give support to both mentors and mentees. So any issues, any queries, anything that you want to contact us about, any great positive stories, then you can get in touch with us at any time. And really what we're trying to do is monitor the programme to make sure that the pairings are going well, and really just try and get some formal feedback from people around their experiences and to quantify how many connections you've made over the time of the programme. And one of the other things we will be doing is updating all of the company sponsor contacts. So these are usually your supply chain director or equivalent who has put you forward as either a mentor or a mentee on this programme. And after each formal feedback point, which I'll cover later on in terms of the timeline when those will happen, just giving them a bit of a progress update in terms of whether contact's been made and how many sessions you've had so far, and whether you're having a great experience with us. But as I say, our contact details are on this slide as well, and we'll share them with you afterwards in the follow-up email and documentation. Any questions at any time, then please do get in touch with us. So moving on to your first meeting, and I know that everybody's going to be anticipating, when this should be, what you should be talking about, what should be preparing in advance. And really your first meeting with your mentor or mentee is all about getting to know each other. So, building a foundation for that open and honest relationship, setting some of those ground rules, and putting structure in place for how you see your ways of working through this programme. So there are some important things that you should think about before the meeting and kind of preparing in advance. And this is really about how can you communicate with your partner who you are and what you do, and give a bit of an overview of your background. So how long you've been in the industry and sort of within the supply chain function and what that journey has looked like. For mentors in particular, it's about sharing how you can support your mentee. So what's brought you to this program and what do you feel you can offer in terms of support, and really being open and honest about that in your first meeting. And likewise with mentees, it's about thinking of what development areas and goals you have that you would like to sort of work towards with your mentor to achieve during your time over the 8-month period. So once you've done your preparation and you've got your thoughts together, really when you have your first meeting, it's about discussing all of those important points in the box on the screen. But really it's to look at ways of working as well. So what is the best way to contact each other? And again, some of our mentors on the call will be in senior leadership roles. So it might be that going through their PA is actually the best option to schedule your catch-up meetings. It's good to agree how often you would like to have your catch-ups. And we advise and recommend that it's once a month or every 6 weeks. I think given the pace that we are experiencing in our industry at the moment, keeping that regular rhythm of keeping connected and revisiting your goals and your progress is really important. So I wouldn't expect your catch-ups to be any longer than every 6 weeks. And again, look at which platform works best for you both. So there's lots and lots of different virtual platforms out there at the moment. You've got Skype, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and a wealth of other platforms. So just pick something that you can both agree works for you, and make sure that you stick to that when you catch up. And during the meeting, it's about making a log of your discussion. So a bit of a summary of what you've shared, logging any actions that you've agreed to, and thinking about how you're going to put those into actions in between this call and your next catch up with your partner. And remember, the mentee should be owning and driving their personal development and this mentoring relationship. So we expect the mentee to reach out to schedule this first meeting, and to kind of be in the driver's seat in terms of the agenda for those meetings. So I'm just going to cover a bit about the timeline. As you can see, we are right at the beginning, at the induction webinar stage, and we'll be sharing who you're paired with shortly, and I'll talk about that in terms of our next steps. The next point of contact will be in July, so we're going to check in with everybody just to make sure that you've made your initial contacts between mentor and mentee, and that hopefully you've got something scheduled in the diary for that all important first conversation with your mentor and mentee. And then following that, we've got a couple of points during the programme where we will be asking for formal feedback. And again, as I said, this is really to help us measure our impact in terms of how many meetings all of our paired partnerships are having, but also to gather feedback on your experience during the programme. And that really helps inform our thinking about how we can continually improve and build on the really positive feedback we get year on year. We'll be sending out those formal pieces of feedback in September, November, and at the programme close in February. An important point just to make in terms of the timeline is by September, when we send out that first formal piece of feedback, you should have had at least one meeting by this point, if not more. So if you want to jot down that as a key milestone, September, you should have at least had one formal meeting with your mentor or mentee. So to finish with the content section of this induction webinar, I'm just going to cover off what you can expect to happen in terms of our next steps. So we'll be emailing you this week with your pairing details. So this is the information of who your mentor or mentee is, so name, company, and how you can get in touch. We'll also be sharing with you your handbook. So we've got one for mentees and one for mentors. And this contains a lot more information, guidance and advice for you in your roles. And a key piece of additional resource at the back of those booklets is more information on free learning that you can tap into during the programme. So for mentors, there's lots of free learning in there around those coaching conversations and how to do that in a remote environment. For mentees, you'll have more kind of content around having confident conversations, and also how to identify what a really good personal development goal is. And as I said, we'll be catching up with you again in July via our first pulse survey, just to make sure that the mentees have reached out and connected with their partner mentor, and that you've got something scheduled in the diary for that all-important first meeting. So I hope the information I have shared during this induction webinar has helped welcome everybody onto the June intake of our e-mentoring programme, and that you feel a bit more in the know about what to expect and what's going to happen as part of this programme. I'm now going to open up to some questions, and I'm going to hand back over to Robin, who is kindly going to read out anything that has already come through the questions function, or if you'd like to ask anything that's come to mind now, please do go ahead and write that in, and we'll do our best to answer your questions.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, Vicky said questions are now open, so feel free to send anything through. Couple of questions are coming through. Will you be sharing the pack? And is it possible to get a copy of the slides?
Yes, so one of the things we are doing with this webinar is we are going to record it. So if you want to access it after today, we'll be sending it to you in that follow-up email where we will be sharing who you're paired with. So in that follow-up email, it will be a recording of this webinar, which obviously will include the slides, who you are paired with so that you can make that all-important first connection, and also the handbook that we mentioned. So all of the additional information and free learning that's there to support you in your role.
Someone's asked here, can we do face-to-face meetings socially distanced, or is this exclusive virtual?
So previously we've run this programme with a bit more scope to do face-to-face, but I think given where we are, it's not something that we're endorsing at the moment. So at IGD, in our commercial and our charity side of the business, we've stopped all face-to-face events for this year. So we don't recommend any face-to-face connections. It is an e-mentoring programme, so we are recommending that they are virtual catch-ups for the meantime.
Okay, we've got one question here. For the first meeting, after details have been sent this week, is it the mentee who should be making first contact?
Yes. So again, as the mentee, this is all about your personal development, your goals, and what you're trying to get out of this program, and working with your mentor to achieve your personal and career goals over this period. So we think it sits in the mentee side to drive that relationship and drive those actions. So we'll be looking at the mentees to reach out to the mentors. But you know, if mentors who are listening in, if you haven't heard from your mentee in a couple of weeks, don't stand on ceremony. You will have their contact information as well. So feel free to reach out if you haven't heard in a couple of weeks. But yes, we recommend that the mentee reaches out to the mentor.
Someone here, we have a mentor who said, when will we receive the details of our mentee? I don't think I've received the details yet.
Okay, no problem. So it's going to be by Friday this week. So as I said, at the end of this week, you'll receive that email. It will come out from Robin, who you're paired with, recording of the webinar, and also your handbook with further advice and information in there.
Some more questions coming through. Someone's asked, how long should the meeting sessions ideally be set up for?
That's a good question. I think for your initial first meeting, I would give it at least an hour. You know, it's going to be a session where you're going to be sharing a lot of information, getting to know one another, talking about your personal goals. So I would give that first meeting at least an hour, and then I think once you've come to the end of that first meeting, I think you'll get a feel for how long you would like your subsequent meetings to last. And again, because we recommend catching up once a month, every 6 weeks, it might be that, you know, an hour and a half is a good amount of time. But from my recommendation, I would say at least an hour.
Somebody here just wants some clarification over what you meant by one session by September. Is this in addition to the initial meeting in the next month?
No. So we're going to reach out in July just to check that that first email from the mentee has gone out to the mentor. You've made contact and you've potentially got something in the diary to have that first conversation. And again, that first meeting counts towards your mentoring meetings over the time of the program. So we would expect you to have had that first conversation by September, if not 1 or 2 more. It's just to really make the point that when we send out that first piece of formal feedback, we expect you to have had at least one meeting with your partner by that point, if not more.
Okay, someone's asked here, the e-learning on the website mentioned that it's specific to the program, or is it useful subjects to study alongside this opportunity? So I'm actually just waiting to hear on clarification over this question, but whether the learning is, yes. So I'm not too sure on that one, to be honest at the moment, but we can get that. If you send that comment through again to whoever that was, then I'm sure that we can get that one answered for you. That's all we have actually.
Robin, I think that might be referring to the pre-learning content that I mentioned, I think, if I'm hearing that one correct. So in the handbook that you'll receive, within that handbook, there's lots more information around the key areas that I've covered on the webinar. So that's your kind of go-to handbook during the program for any questions or queries, to refresh your mind of any of the key points of information. But at the end of that handbook, we link to some highlighted resources that you can tap into. So for mentors, we've got a number of different free learning webinars, articles, infographics, things like that you can use to support you in your role as a mentor. And exactly the same for a mentee. There's different resources in the mentee handbook that are going to help you to use this program as effectively as possible. Things from setting good personal development goals through to having confident conversations.
Great.
Hopefully that answers that.
That's exactly what the person was after. So at least you understood what they were talking about, Vicky.
It took me a moment.
Yeah, I still didn't get there. Good question here. Does it matter if you don't have a firm long-term career plan?
I don't think so. So again, we talk about this e-mentoring program being an opportunity for career goals, but also personal development goals. So it might not necessarily be that you're a person that's got a 2, 3, 5 year, 10-year plan for your career in that way. Excuse me. But you might have some other personal development areas that you know that you need to work on, whether that's making some of your strengths even stronger, or there are some elements where you think that you need to upskill within the rest of your kind of toolkit. So you can use your mentor to, and again, if you're someone that's not quite clear on what that is and where your strengths and weaknesses might lie, you can use that in your first meeting to say, look, I'm not as far along as I would hope to be. Can I use you as my mentor to help me kind of get there and understand what my goals are through this? So yeah, don't worry if you're not quite clear at the moment. You can use that first meeting to help clarify what it is you want to achieve.
Okay, good. Well, just looking at the questions now, that's everything answered at the moment. So yeah, I think that draws to the end on that side. But as mentioned throughout this session, if you just email learning@igd.com, and we'll be able to answer any further questions that you have. Vicky, do you have any final comments or anything before we end?
Yes, just to say that this is a great programme. We have lots and lots of great feedback from previous mentors and mentees, and I just wish you well on your journey, and I hope you're all excited to get started.